So what I wanted to talk today is the importance of words and language. It's really important in our tradition. I've mentioned before that there's kind of two halves to Buddhism. There's kind of the quiet side that doesn't use a lot of form, not a lot of words. They don't use statues. It's fairly Puritan, to mix metaphors. But the Zen tradition is an example where you sit on a cushion, you sit in front of a blank wall, and you silently meditate. And this is what most people think of when they think of Buddhism in America. And I think that's why we have a little bit of trouble getting our message out. But there's another whole half of Buddhism that's very noisy and likes to use art and statues and form. A Zen Naijin would not look anything like this. This is very ornate. It takes your breath away. It attacks all your senses with vision and sound and smell. And Namo Amida Butsu is like the most important word, right? This is a very important word. And we need to know what it means. We need to say it sincerely. And the other thing I've been thinking about language is I have two grandchildren now. Torin, who's going to be 2 in May, and Torin's going to be 3 in May. I'm tired. I'm watching my grandkids. And Harrison will be 1 in May. And we're starting to teach Torin to speak and learn language. And so I'm very aware of like language acquisition, how he's picking up words. A lot of times I don't know what he's talking about, but he talks in run-on sentences, but I don't understand what he's saying. And for Apple, he calls it either a red or an app, right? So I've got that down. And also I've noticed, this is a different Dharma talk, but I've noticed it's easier to teach him to say please than thank you, right? So we want to say Namo Amida Butsu often in gratitude. Trying to teach a little kid how to say thank you is hard. Please is easy because like he wants that apple. And it's like, I ain't giving you this apple unless you say please. So it's like, all right, please. But then after he's eaten it and I say thank you, there's no motivation in that, right? He's full and we're good. So I wanted to look at the use of language today and the importance it is to reflect another person's reality. I got this verb from Janice. She's reading a book on he, she, they, them, and how important it is to reflect someone's reality back at them. It's a sign of respect, and it's really a sign of right speech. Like I always think right speech means to say nice things to people, but it's to use language very carefully with intentionality and to choose your words wisely. Like I wanted symmetric TVs. I didn't want new TVs, right? That was a big difference. And I could have gotten really attached to that, and we could have had a TV fight at church. And I've told you before, my wife not always, sometimes my wife, sometimes, not always, that's a good use of words. Sometimes she sends me clips and images from Instagram, and there is a website called the Daily Om, and Om is one of these sacred Indian words that's supposed to have all the vowels in it. You're supposed to start like with the letter A, and then you hit E, and then you hit O, and at the end you say the U, and all the vowel sounds are within this utterance of Om, representing oneness. So the Daily Om is really cool. They send out like a kind of a spiritual blog every day, right? And they kind of have to do that because that's their brand, right? They're daily. Everyday Buddhism, we do it weekly. So we're the weekly Om. I can only do it once a week. But this is the Daily Om. I don't know how they do it. But it said here that words are energy. Each word we speak has a life of its own, a vibratory signature that creates waves into the expanse of the universe. So this sounds a lot like it's explained in the Eternal Now that we often read, and we're going to read later, that words have power, they have an energy, and they have meaning. And then it goes on to say, when we speak or write, we use words to carry our meaning. We may be speaking to our baby, our boss, or to an audience of 500 people. We may be writing a love letter, a work-related memo, or an entry in our own diary. Whatever the case, each word we use has a life of its own, a vibratory signature that creates waves in the same way that a note of music creates waves. And like musical notes, our words live in communities of other words and change in relation to the words that surround them. When we are conscious of the energy behind our words, we become capable of making beautiful music in the world. If we are unconscious of the power of words, we run the risk of creating a noisy disturbance. So Janice Hirohama, M.A. Janice Hirohama, read The Eightfold Path, and one of these was right speech. But my son, Teague, when he was coming to Dharma school, he told me that he didn't think you could do right speech without right thought or without right view. They're all interrelated to one another. So you have to see things clearly, you have to think about things clearly, and you have to use, and that will actually be expressed by the language you choose to use. So we want to refrain from harmful talk and use words wisely and with deep respect. But this word right is a little problematic. It makes for a nice translation if all the words are right this, right that, right. But it kind of gives this dualistic impression that there's right speech and there's wrong speech. So if you can't achieve right, then you're wrong. I got this off the internet from John Allen. I don't know who that is, but it was from John Allen. And he said the word in India for right was the term sama. And it has a wide range of meanings. So rather than right speech, it can mean proper, whole, thorough, integral, complete, or perfect. It's related to the English word summit, and it does not necessarily mean right as opposed to wrong. However, it is often translated as right, which can send a less than accurate message. For instance, the opposite of right awareness is not wrong awareness. It may simply be incomplete. Use of the word right may make for a neat, consistent list of qualities in translations. The downside is that it can give the impression that the path is a narrow and moralistic approach to the spiritual life. He says that he likes to use variant interpretations so you can consider the depth of meanings. And then he says, what do you think, what do these things mean in your life right now? So the way he translated it, originally it's samavaka. It means a perfected, or whole speech, also called right speech. It is clear, truthful, uplifting, and it's non-harmful. But learning English is very hard. I watch Torin, and it's a lot. English has Latin words and Greek words and Nordic words, and I'm a math major, and I never could spell. I never was able to spell in English. But when I took Spanish and Japanese, I could spell really well, because if you say the word properly, it's always spelled the way you hear it. Everything in English is an exception. When I was in spelling, our teacher would say, well, this word happens to be an exception. They're all exceptions. Every word's an exception. So I went back into my Wayback Machine. This is the comedian Gallagher. Everybody said, oh, that's the guy that smashes watermelons with a sledgehammer. He does a nice little stand-up, and he explains pronunciation of words on the new Smothers Brother Comedy Hour. So that's really a long time ago. So it's very old. But I remember seeing this, and I wanted to share this with you. English is very difficult to learn.
B-O-M-B, bomb. T-O-M-B, Tom, no, tomb. If T-O-M-B is tomb, that's boom, the bomb's over. But no, that's bomb, that's tomb. Get ready. Is this calm or coom? No, that's comb. C-O-M-B, comb. P-O-M-B, poem. No, poem is P-O with an E with an M. Now, P-O-E-M, poem. H-O-E-M, home. No, home is H-O with an M with an E. H-O-M-E, home. S-O-M-E, some. No, that's some. S-O-M-E, some. N-O-M-E, numb. No, that's N-U-M-B. The whole doggone thing is dumb.
So that's how we used to do things before we had PowerPoint. This is before PowerPoint. So I wanted to share, I know some people here are really good at English, so just don't Don't make fun of me later. Don't grammar shame me. But I always get presents and presents mixed up. Presents, and I know when you give somebody a gift, it's a present, but you want somebody to be, you would like their presence at a meeting, and you would like them to be present. It's very confusing. I always get this wrong. When you explain a word using the same word, it's bad. As a noun, presence means gifts. In contrast, when presence is used as a noun, it often refers to something or someone being present in a place. This makes no sense. This one's famous. This one's really famous. Everybody gets this wrong. So, affect is the influence you have on something, and effect is the outcome of that influence. So, affect is commonly used as a verb, meaning to influence or produce a change. Effect is primarily used as a noun, representing the result or consequence of an action. However, effect can also be used as a verb, meaning to bring about or accomplish something. So, here are some examples for affect. Staying up late tonight might affect your performance tomorrow. The result of the exam will affect your overall grade. So, effect. Tourism has a positive effect on the economy. The fog created an eerie effect. Now we're getting into the true stories, more true stories. When I started working as a programmer, it was in Costa Mesa, and it was a company called Genesco. And I don't know if I've told you this, but every company I've worked for has gone out of business. But it wasn't me. It wasn't me. A lot of companies go out of business all the time, and I didn't work there. So one of the guys, there was a programmer that I didn't get along with that well. And back in the day, we used 5 1/4-inch floppy drives. And he wrote the software that actually booted up our program, the boot software, like the kernel. And it was on a 5.5. And he was working on it for a long time, and he left it plugged in. And I looked at the directory of files, and there was startup and end. But then there was a file called resume. And I thought, oh my gosh. I always thought bad things about this guy. I thought, he's embedding his resume in our boot up software so that every time it goes to a company, he's sending him his resume. And I thought this was like the worst scandal. And I was going to go to the CEO. It was a very small company. I was going to go to the CEO and say, Michael's sending out his resume on our boot software. And about 8 hours later, I realized it was Resume. Resume. It helped the software resume. It wasn't his resume. But he didn't use, I don't know. We didn't have apostrophes back then, so I couldn't tell the difference. And then this one happened in high school. When I was in high school, we had to do off-season training, and we would lift weights in the morning, and we would have a notebook where we would write down like what we did that day. And the quarterback of the team, instead of writing weight room on his notebook, WEIGHT, he wrote weight room, WAIT. And I thought that would be so great if that was a room where we could just go in there and wait until school started. So I think we all made fun of him. We shouldn't have done that. But, we have homonyms and synonyms in English that make things very confusing. They sound the same, but they're spelled differently, and they mean something totally different. So that's another thing you have to learn in school and be very careful about when you speak. And then the other thing I wanted to start to talk about is it's not just names of apples, but people change their names. Muhammad Ali was Cassius Clay, right? He was Cassius Clay, and he became Muhammad Ali. And Ron Artest became Meta World Peace. And I thought about it today. I don't know if Meta is his first name, World is his middle name, Peace is his last name. But it doesn't matter. That's his name. That's the way he would like to be referred to. He was in the Malice at the Palace where the Indiana Pacers beat up the Detroit Pistons. It was a huge scandal, and okay, nobody remembers this. But he actually changed his name because he went up into the stands and hit fans. And so it almost ruined his career. And he came to the Lakers and won a championship and played better in Game 7 than Kobe did. And so, I call him Meta World Peace. That's his name. Muhammad Ali wanted to be called Muhammad Ali. I think Howard Cosell was maybe the first announcer to use his new name. But he had a very close friend, a heavyweight champion named Ernest Terrell, who was his gym buddy. And he'd even forged a close relationship with Muhammad Ali. But he threw that all away when he looked Ali in the eye and called him Cassius Clay. So he would call him the wrong name out of disrespect. And they had a fight together. And Ali punished him for that for like 10 rounds when he could have ended it in 1 or 2. So, this was a huge act of disrespect to not honor and reflect his reality. Now, I'm not Muhammad Ali or Cassius Clay, but I don't think this is happening anymore because when I tell this story, nobody knows what I'm talking about. But when I was a little boy and I went to kindergarten, my name is Jon without the H. And it really means a lot to me. It's a really big deal. Every time I see an H, it irks me. Like when I go to a conference at another temple and they have Reverend John with an H, I'm like, no, don't say anything. Don't say anything. But my teachers would call me Jan or Jan or Jonathan. And I kept telling him, it's just John. And Reverend John Iwahara has an H. And he said that I spelled my name right. Phonetically, this is the way it should be spelled. John Iwahara said, why is there an H in there? And I said, I don't know. So we also have Teresa Shimagawa, our new MA. She spells her name without an H because she's not the Risa, right? She's Teresa, not the Risa. So she wrote a blog for Everyday Buddhist, and I accidentally put an H in her name. Me, Jon. I put an H in her name. And as soon as she saw it, I got an email. And I get lots of emails about corrections and stuff. And I was like, oh, come on. I made one letter mistake. It was a typo. But then I realized I H'd her. And so I felt really bad. It's really important for me, but I didn't realize that it's important to her. And so, this is the right speech. I need to be as aware of that this is just as important to Teresa as it is to me. We're fellow no-H'ers. So we did Tisarana today, where we said that we rely on the Buddha, we rely on the Dharma, and we rely on the Sangha. And these are spiritual refuge, sanctuaries or shelter. And it's very important that everybody feels welcome. So, we say Amida Buddha embraces all beings. And the historical Buddha, the teachings are meant for all people. He tailored his teachings to individuals and to different groups. And he talked differently to different people and used language differently. I've told you this example before. I have a book in my office that's 850 pages. And it's like every sutra kind of glued together in a Reader's Digest form. It's like a historical novel. They weaved 500,000 pages into 800. But there's a spot in the book where he's talking to one audience, and he said the most important thing for you to do is honor the precepts. And then I turned the page, and then he said the most important thing you can do is listen to the Dharma. And I didn't realize that the audience had changed. The audience for precepts were male monastics, and the audience for listening were householders and everyday people. So this is one of the things the Buddha did really well. He tailored his talk for the needs of the individuals he was speaking to. And so it's really important that we also make our Sangha a place of safety for all people. And the one I'm thinking of right now is LGBTQ community. To make them feel welcome, to make them feel honored, to reflect back their truth, to honor pronouns, to honor their names. It's just as important to them as it is to me. So in our tradition, our brand or our messaging often relies on these points. We are all accepted just as we are. This is literal, right? This isn't aspirational. Individuality is prized and honored. Our temples should be a spiritual refuge for all. When you're accepted, it's more easier for you to accept others. And you also begin to have an overwhelming sense of gratitude when you're accepted as you are. I honestly think maybe we should pivot from a practice of gratitude to a place where you're accepted as you are, that you're good enough, you're seen and valued just as you are. And I wanted to show you this in the 7th verse of the Shoshinge that we chant often. It says here that when one thought moment of joy and gratitude arises within us, we shall experience liberation without severing blind passions. So nobody really says this in Buddhism, but without changing, you experience liberation just as you are. When ignorant and wise people are in the grasp of the vow, it is like waters that on entering the ocean become one in taste with it. So, when we come to our Sangha, we all become one in taste. We all become equal, and we all become valued. And this is translated into into Japanese. It comes from the Japanese kanji, ichi-mi. So ichi's easy, right? That's one, ichi. And mi, this kanji, means taste. So it's of one taste. We're all of one taste, and we all have value. So we're different, but we're all highly valued. And we learn from one another. So at the Gardena Buddhist Temple with Reverend John Iwahara, they started a group called Ichi-mi. They have a group. We have ABBA or PK. They also have a group that honors LGBTQ plus people. And they have this wonderful handbook or guide called, the title is To Be Embraced by the Buddha's Compassion. And today, so this is actually just one long announcement. Today at 1 o'clock in the social hall, free of charge with snacks. I've heard there's a ton of snacks. So we're going to show a film that was made by the BCA. It's called A Profound Silence. So this is something that maybe we need to talk about and address and have a dialogue with our LGBTQ community members and visitors about how they'd like to be addressed, how they would like to be referred to, if they feel comfortable. And they made a movie, about a 15-minute movie called A Profound Silence, and it's really it's a moving movie. And then afterwards, there's going to be a panel discussion with Q&A. So I'm going to be attending. I've told you my daughter Emily is part of the LGBTQ plus community. She's going to be there. She's very excited. It's a place to learn and listen. And another thing I didn't talk about today much, but language changes over time. And the rules that we learned when we were little, language is always changing and always moving. Wanda Sykes, the comedian I told you, was talking about how people my age get frustrated about using they or them for an individual. And she said, "You just sound old. You just sound old." And then the other thing I noticed too is there's been a change in the language. We don't call people homeless anymore. We call them unhoused. And I don't know exactly why or where that came from, but it's no big thing for me to adopt this new language. And so, language changes. We need to honor it and be flexible. And refer to people in ways that they find respectful. And so we're going to be talking about this at the Profound Silent event today in the social hall. So my name is John. So we didn't even get to pronouns, right? Nouns and verbs are hard enough. Torin's going to have to learn pronouns, right? Cats are, a cat is. Right? There's plural, and we don't have much gendered language in our culture, but I know that we still call a ship a she. Ships they use the feminine pronoun. But I wanted to show you this too. This is the wisteria for our tradition, Jodo Shinshu. It's right here. And I think this comes from Portland, the Portland Temple, or Seattle, I can't remember. But they came up with this symbol as a way of signaling that the rainbow, that LGBTQ people are valued and seen and honored, not just ignored or kind of, put up with, but are embraced and are a valuable part of our Sangha. And so just a symbol like this is very meaningful. The board voted unanimously to put that LGBTQ flag out in the lobby, and it really means a lot. I don't know if I told you this, but the last time I spoke on this topic, Emily and her partner Kayla came, and I should have mentioned this in my talk, but I forgot. That was when they had the shootings at the gay nightclub in Texas, I think. But there's been so many, I can't remember which one it was, right? I can't remember. There's been a lot. But it was the day after, it happened on a Friday night or a Saturday night, and they came to church to hear me speak about LGBTQ on a Sunday, and they told me when they walked in that door and they saw that flag, they teared up. I mean, this stuff means a lot to them. And it doesn't mean that much to me, and it doesn't take that much effort, but it means so much to others that I want to honor them, and I want them to feel safe. And that little flag there, it doesn't seem like much, and it doesn't solve all the world's problems, but my daughter's an incrementalist, and she thinks every little bit like this really makes a difference. Every step we take, that flag, the seminar today, it's progress, and she's very proud. So I want to thank you very much. Please join me in Gasho. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Naman Da Butsu, Naman Da Butsu.